Well, to say I feel honored to be here and talking to you in this place would be to put it mildly. By saying, wait a minute, I'm taller than that, yeah. In saying that, I'm not being rhetorical. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
See? They can hear me because George brought the connections and the speaker and the mic. Not rhetorical because it is a genuine honor for a lot of reasons, and let me say them quickly. One of them is to be asked to read here in this extraordinary magical place, magical by its own feng shui and by what Susan and Jim and Stephen have done to make this place such a welcoming presence for arts and all the arts. Little by little they accumulate. And every time I've been here, which is not so many times, but every time I've been here, I've had experiences of two kinds: powerful interactions with art and powerful interactions with people whom I had met for the first time. So that this place is not just a magnet for display and consumption a la a gallery. It's something else. It's something more than that, something that genuinely pulls things together. I'm also honored because T-Space was kind enough to make me the second or third, I don't know the sequence, poet to receive an award, the T-Space Award, which was a substantial sum of money, for which I'm grateful, and which I will use in all the best wrong ways, and I'm very, very grateful for it. But the honor is, those are practical honors. There's a spiritual honor in being connected in any way with Stephen's work. Here's a man who has, from my point of view, recreated what it means to build a building. As I understand it, from my sense of it, he's building it from the inside, i.e. from us. He isn't presenting us with an elaborate and interesting construct tossed out into a field for us to admire and maybe, or maybe not, go into. He seems to work from the sense that some human being has to do something somewhere, go to work, or look at a picture, or go to church, and he works from that interiority. In that sense, his architecture, what I've seen of it, reminds me powerfully of what poems aspire to be located in a sensory presence, which opens to something more than that. In that sense, walking into a building should be not just an experience of shelter or convenience, but an experience of knowledge, a kind of hermeneutic experiment. And from Seattle to Chengdu, he has been building these things. And I feel very honored to know him and to be rewarded by him. And then, closer to home, it's a terrific honor to be reading in a situation that's essentially to honor two remarkable women artists, both of whom I've known for many, many years, one of whom is world famous, and her work is over there, an extraordinary culmination of work of the kind I've seen from her over many, many years. We met in 1959, when she had just blown into town from up here, a wild thing, and with her friends, and I was a grumpy genius, writing poems and running a magazine, and one of the earliest interactions we had was her, besides some of her wonderful stories she told, none of which are capable of being repeated. One of our earliest interactions was publishing a text of hers in a little magazine I ran, a text which, to my mind, was one of the very first times that a woman artist had insisted on the body as index of reality. A piece, and all of her work, when I first knew her, she was a painter. That's what I saw. Fantastic paintings, pale, abstract, more than abstract, located in a kind of mental space that was always intriguing, always kind of provoking of a narrative, as you might imagine. Since then, she's done every imaginable thing, visually, sound, presence, snake, garbage, achievement, sculpture, And this fantastic thing now over there, it's an honor indeed to know her and to praise her at this moment, which is her moment. And then Susan Quasha, who is not world famous yet, and I think that her photographs are extraordinary. When I looked at them the first time, I thought, here was someone who had finally transcended subject matter, had finally opened the image, and again, similarly to the way in which architecture can function. A Susan photo, it seemed to me, and that excited me so much, was an ability to offer us a vision of something, because these were all done in the camera. They're not Photoshop gizmos, they're not darkroom gizmos, they're just pictures taken in an ordinary $10,000 camera, such as any of us might have in our back pocket. But they're taken in the camera. This is a woman encountering a reality and seeing through it. Or as her husband George speaks sometimes, further thought. The image presents itself and we go through it. We're no longer stopped at the level of identification or emotional reaction to the image, oh pretty boy, oh nice tree, oh nice animal. We no longer blocked there. We pass right through into another dimension. When I saw those pictures, I was absolutely stunned. And I wanted to write about them and had done so. I wrote a whole bunch of poems about them, and I'll read a few of those now. They're all in the book, except for the first two pieces I'm going to read, which are not in the book and have nothing to do with Susan. But they do have to do with 1960, when I knew Caroline, and when I was writing my first book called On Descent. And I just wanted to read a couple of those to show where I was back then. Probably better than now, but anyway, youth is always better. Going. He doesn't want you to hear me. Poets are terrible envious. If he were giving a reading now, I'd be smoking a cigar, scratching myself. Thank you. Going. If you ever get there, where I have been once or twice before, running in summers with no sleep, under iron bridges, the eddy around me curve of black willow bank around me lying at bottom, looking up at the river's skin, shadows of fish in the sun and no whispers, under wooden bridges, rumbling under the fords, sifting dust into that coolness of underbridge, striped with sunlight. God, I love you all and don't want you to be there under the blue skin, itching in shallow grass. No thought in your minds but to measure those distances, counting in pores of sunburnt skin, and tell me you're there, in inches, in feet, and how very far away easily, that much further away. And then from a long poem called Spiritum, that was my first experiment in writing long poems, and I've disgraced myself with dozens of long poems ever since, and burdened the critical attention. This is an excerpt from a poem called Spiritum. To begin the preliminaries of geography, know where things are. If you live in a red room in the cave, and your body moves violently in your blood, and your rhythm is the sun's reflection, and I visit you in the red room, see fires burning beyond the window, rose bushes flowering all at once. If you live in a blue room and move the sun with your right breast, the moon from your left breast, and cup your pubis for the hair of comets and fish, and I visit you sleeping in your blue sleep. If you live in a white room, my foot makes a rusty sound at your door. There's no part of me that can deliver you. if you live anywhere in a black room, and the folds of your body are purple, and I visit you to work myself into your rhythm, dilute the colors until there is only white, no footfalls at the door. Now I'd like to read some of the Susan Quasha poems, the poems for Susan. May I say this, Susan? I asked her to choose the poems from the group that she liked best, or that seemed to be truest to her or closest in some way. She said, well, I'll give you the ones that made me cry most. That's the test. That's the test. Anyway, if you have the hymnals with you, I don't know the pages, but if you have the book, I'm going to read one called The Road Down Goes Up, one called Gossamer, and one called Blue Pools. So if you have the book, you can see the pictures to which they're speaking, and at the needs of which they are, in a sense, praying to make sense. The road down goes up. Everything is going to the sky. That seems to be the secret. Heraclitus to Heidegger, they all seem to say so. There is a road that goes there, a line to follow, trees and other sentinels assert the way. To say the way is to protect it. We go as far as we can. That is who we are. We are the ones who go as far as we can. We follow any tree. A tree is what Dasein actually says or sings. Men argue about whether there's anything on the other side of the sky, some other sort of being or being. But we keep going. This picture grows lighter as you look at it. The dawn is coming. Make sure we get there in time. Or sunset. Only fools think there is a difference. It is the same light, constantly growing. Wherever you look, already the trees are all behind you. And this is a longer sequence called Gossamer. And it spoke from one piece, one photo, but speaks to a number of others. Hard gossamer, the brittle air, leafless branch enmeshed in God's own crinoline, detected. This is a man's heart. A man like me, half wood, half will, a greenish kind of red. You suck my blood. Freemasonry of being touch. The eye that saw this image is inside a man, sees the pretty cobwebs of my appetites, a flyless web bereft of predator, cotton candy caught in amber sympathy. It knows I want to get sticky with you, whoever you are. Who saw this waiting, calling, wanting in the woods? It knows, it knows. It knows what I want. It rebukes me for my shtick. I invented something no one wants, a word instead of a loaf of bread. But it leads me everywhere. In the murk of ordinary seeing leads me to love. My vague persuasion, my broken stick. Gravity determines how I look at you, even the eyes of a level. Pnei Hayam, the plane of earth, of the sea. I want to look at you where my eyes are. Touch nothing. Leave it to the air. So we sat down and thought about it. Air is a mineral. What you show behind the trees is a kind of polished stone. Tourmaline, we breathe in. Colors flourish us. Water is a mineral too. We turn into each other. Hair of the air, the light around the skull, from which the thought disseminates throughout the world and through which it feeds. Hair of the great trees. But a stick is nothing with a hand to hold it. Desire is the mineral in which the animal moves. Tourmaline problems the whole earth, a dirty pebble. You snug into your pocket. One look and then, how hard it is to find the world again. But it is geometry at last, shows gravity the way to go. Down where the dogs are, down where the unborn children please us, tease us in our sleep, down where Ariadne dries her tears for Theseus and rises higher. Love affair with a god, the twice-born, whose juices surge through man and tree. Now comes blue pools. Light misbehaving. Light you took our things away, not even their shadows, or to hand you left us just yourself, and not much of that. Your radiance all umbered, and all the brilliancy condensed to 3 blue pools. Color of the square halos of Byzantium, dignity of devils. Every being, bad or good, has its own glow. The dark keeps answering. And then I see it could be woman, could be rocked loins, could be breasts, the parts of promise, shimmer pools, becoming the dawn sky, and storm light at the margin, margins of desire, margins of thought. And we remember the great poet who sailed past us 24 years ago into the luminous uncertainty, strange light, light misbehaving, yellow-green light of earthquake and Golgotha, that a woman stands in darkness, firm against equivocation. What can they be who speak to me? Look longer, set the buried caverns free, impersonate all, and all time is burined in my hide. The great poet I mentioned there is Robert Duncan, whose phrase I quote. And then the last piece, a very small one, if I can find it. The theory. If you saw a color and opened it up, you'd find another color. And inside that, another, and on, and never find the sky. We are already on the inside of the sky. What we see are the reflection patterns of our tears, the smudges of words on feelings left. Thank you. Thank you, Susan.
Take my chair.